Live from clickorlando.com and WKMG, we're getting results in your neighborhood now at 6 a.m.
Hurricane Milton now a Category 4, but still headed right toward Florida. The latest models and what we can expect here at home.
And millions along the Gulf Coast packing up and heading out as mandatory evacuations are in place. The historic damage the area could see just days after dealing with Helene.
Good morning. It's now 6 a.m. on this Tuesday. I'm Bridget Ellison.
And I'm Lewis Bolden. Crystal is off. And thank you for staying with us on this extended edition of News 6 Mornings. We want to get straight over to Chief Meteorologist Candace Campos and the very latest on Milton. And Candace, the storm did weaken slightly overnight, but it's still a massive storm.
And this weakening process is going to be kind of short-lived, but it's going to start re-strengthening once it really finishes getting its eye wall replaced. And this is what tends to happen when we start talking about Category 4 or 5 storms. It's very hard to keep that intensity for that long of a period. But with that being said, once we start seeing the eye wall really start getting kind of set back up again, there will be that potential of possibly peaking back into Category 5 as it starts to kind of exit and kind of push away from the Yucatan Peninsula. Right now, there are sustained winds of 155 miles per hour. By the way, it did get up to 185 miles per hour yesterday at the 8 p.m. Update. Looking at the forecast cone, regardless if it fluctuates between a 4 and a 5, many of the models are in agreement that it's going to start interacting a little bit with some wind shear, with a little bit of dry air, two factors that hurricanes don't like. Therefore, things that we like here in Central Florida, right? So as we continue to watch this turn still into a major hurricane, it will still maintain Category 3 strength as it approaches the west coast of Florida. Many of the models are going to zip it right through the heart of Central Florida, right along the I-4 corridor, potentially bringing with it hurricane conditions, Category 2 potentially when we talk about those wind concerns. So let's look at the wind gusts, kind of a broad view here. By Wednesday afternoon, it is going to be kind of a very windy afternoon already. The worst of the weather will, of course, approach as that core moves onshore. You can see some wind gusts upwards about 96 to 100 miles per hour. By overnight into early Thursday morning and into the afternoon, we're still talking about wind gusts exceeding about 70 to 80 miles per hour and continuing to bring in those strong winds even along our coastal communities. Look at that. Even late into Thursday evening, we could be seeing wind gusts exceeding hurricane force winds. So, of course, the winds are going to be a concern. The rain, the tornadoes, the storm surge, all of that mixed into one. Standing by with more on those impacts is meteorologist Michelle Morgan.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at your local impacts. Starting off with Osceola County, everyone here, the worst of the weather will be between Wednesday evening through Thursday evening. So what to expect for your county? Winds between 45 to 60 plus miles per hour, gusts up to 80 miles per hour, and rainfall potential between 3 to 6 inches. As we head over to Polk County, we are looking at strong winds between 50 to 60 miles per hour, gusts up to 90 miles per hour, and the rainfall potential between 3 to 6 inches. And of course, if you live in a low-lying area, you could see some minor flooding. As we head over to Seminole County, we're looking at winds between 55 to 75 miles per hour, potential gusts up to 100 miles per hour, with the rainfall potential between 3 to 6 inches for you. And as we head over to Sumter County here, the strongest winds for you because you're closer to the Gulf Coast. We're looking at winds exceeding 80 miles per hour and then gusts 100 miles per hour, potentially 110, with the rainfall up to 8 inches. And of course, for everyone, there's a tornado threat because there'll be a lot of spinning in the atmosphere. We could see a few weak tornadoes touch down. Heading to Orange County, winds between 60 to 80 miles per hour, gusts up to 100 miles per hour, rainfall between 3 to 6 inches for you, with locally higher amounts certainly possible. And of course, can't forget about our coastal counties. Brevard County, winds between 45 to 60 miles per hour, gusts between 65 to 85 miles per hour, and also storm surge between 3 to 6 feet. We'll see that water pushed up on shore. So that'll be pretty much for the entire East Coast as we go through Wednesday into Thursday. So we'll go over this in more detail coming up in a bit. And back to you guys.
All right, Michelle, thank you. This morning, the Hurricane Center is warning that Milton could be one of the most destructive hurricanes on record for West Central Florida.
Millions of people along Florida's Gulf Coast ordered to get out before it's too late, with Tampa's mayor delivering a dire warning.
Here in the city of Tampa, 64 years, I've never seen the damage that we saw with Helene, and Milton is on a whole other plateau.
Traffic began to pick up yesterday as many started heeding those warnings to evacuate. You can see in this map from the state mandatory evacuation orders in place in parts of 9 different counties, most of them along the Gulf Coast. And we say most because Volusia County on the east coast of Florida also has issued mandatory evacuation orders starting tomorrow.
That's right. That includes people living east of the Intracoastal Waterway and those in manufactured homes. News 6's Ezzy Castro joins us live from Volusia County this morning. And Ezzy, as that evacuation order begins, shelters will also be opening up.
That's right. So several shelters will be opening up starting tomorrow morning, and that's because Volusia County officials have enacted an evacuation order for those residents living on the east part of the Intracoastal Waterway and people living in manufactured homes and also mobile homes and low-lying areas. Also, people that are staying on campsites and RV recreational parks. Now, officials say people will be able to evacuate to those shelters starting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
This is a substantial threat, not only to Volusia County, but to many areas across the state of Florida. Don't be fooled or get complacent with the reports that this storm will lose its intensity by the time it reaches us. We're still going to get hit very, very hard.
Volusia County also issued a curfew for all residents that will go into effect tomorrow night from 8 p.m. and lasting until 8 a.m. Thursday. Now back out here live. As for those shelters, there are several that are pet friendly and others for people with special needs. And again, those will be opening tomorrow morning starting at 9 a.m. We have all of those details on clickorlando.com. For now, live in Daytona Beach, Ezzy Castro, going to Results News 6.
That is important information, Ezzy. Thank you. Flagler County doesn't have any mandatory evacuations right now, but emergency officials are warning that could change tomorrow. One of the big problems, there's already standing water in many areas from weeks of rain. County leaders worry that could lead to flooding and even topple trees.
The fact that because of the ground moisture, that some trees that may not have toppled over in a similar storm may likely topple over.
Emergency managers are telling people to prepare for hurricane-force winds and get those preps done as soon as possible. In Lake County, shelters will begin opening later today for those who need a safe place to stay during the storm.
15 locations will open at noon, including special needs and pet-friendly shelters. News 6's Emily McLeod continues team coverage from Lake County's Emergency Operations Center.
Hey, good morning, Bridget and Lewis. Yeah, those shelters are going to be open all over the county, and the county officials are urging people, if you feel like you need to go somewhere else, maybe stay with a friend, a neighbor, or to go to one of those shelters they're opening, now is the time to make those plans. In a Facebook briefing last night with county officials, they had safety messages for all of Lake County, but they also specifically mentioned the community of Astor, which has already experienced some flooding over the last couple of days. We were in Astor yesterday, where they've been dealing with flooding concerns for weeks. A lot of people who live along the St. Johns River told us the water is already at their dock or seawall, and they are fully expecting it to flood. We spoke to a woman who says she plans on moving her cars to an area that doesn't flood so she can eventually get to them.
I have a little boat I go back and forth with, which I do. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, and then I'll get this car out here, so I put it outside the flood stage, and that we could use it later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much just getting ready. Yeah.
Do you anticipate that you'll have to get your boat out for this storm?
Yes, I do.
County officials are not only warning people in Astor about flooding during the storm, but after too. They say they expect the water levels to rise in the river in the days after the hurricane. Now, out of the 15 shelters that are opening today at noon, 9 of them will be pet friendly and 5 of them will be for special needs. We're also expecting an update here at the Emergency Operations Center at 11 a.m. We'll be here when that happens. For now, reporting live in Tavares, I'm Emily McLeod, getting Results News 6.
Emily, thank you. Utility companies across Central Florida are prepping for power outages caused by Milton.
We anticipate major impacts to our service territory because of this storm's path, intensity. It's going to impact some of the most populated areas of Duke Energy Florida's service territory.
Duke Energy says about 10,000 additional crews are coming in to help restore power as soon as it's safe to do so. The utility serves about 950,000 customers across Central Florida. Meantime, OUC sent a message to customers warning to be prepared for extended outages following the storm. And the company says it's bringing in extra help, increasing restoration resources to 5 times their normal size.
And now let's check back in with Chief Meteorologist Candace Campos. And Candace, I have to tell you, I like one of the things that you did when you compared Milton, the winds, to previous hurricanes that we've had, like Hurricane Charlie. We know how much damage Charlie did. You know, we had a lot of power outages. We had trees down. And so it just puts it in perspective how strong this storm is.
Right, and I think that's the moment we started really kind of comparing the two. Normally we don't like to compare them too early in the forecast, but really when we start talking about comparing Charlie with Milton, this is going to be a slower storm than Charlie, by the way. Charlie zipped through the state extremely fast. It's also bigger than Charlie. So when we start comparing the two, Milton looks like it's going to start teetering more on the more of a concern, really more of a intense storm compared to Charlie. Now, with that being said, compared to 2005, we are different. We are a different community. We are better organized. We are better set up. Our building codes have improved since 2005. So with that being said, this is not something to panic or to be scared. I know there's a lot of storm anxiety right now. I can see it on the roads. I can see it in those stores. I can see it with my family. At the end of the day, make those preparations that you know how to do. And if you don't, we have an entire section on clickorlando.com. Clickorlando.com/hurricane is a great resource, especially for those who this might be their first storm or their first big time storm here in Central Florida. Ways of supplying the best supplies, the best preparations for your home, whether you're renting or you have your own home. But let's look here real quick at the satellite imagery. This storm certainly is a monster at the end of the day, Lewis. Still packing winds of 155 miles per hour. But those models are showing that it is going to just cross through the heart of Central Florida. Now with Charlie, it was southwest Florida, so we had a little more time on land before it made its way into Central Florida. This time around, the landfall interaction is going to be a bit shorter, meaning we certainly could be seeing Category 2 hurricane conditions here in Central Florida. That is why we are talking about the threat for sustained winds up to about 80 miles per hour, gusting upwards of about 100. So again, Charlie was about 105 or so. We certainly could exceed that in many areas in Central Florida. Also with a slower moving storm, we're talking more rainfall than Charlie. 4 to 8 inches. Could see some areas up to about a foot of rain when this is all said and done, along with the storm surge as Milton continues to exit out of the East Coast. We're going to be pinpointing it more county by county, more comparisons, more timelines, so that way you can dissect everything and be prepared for what will be coming late Wednesday night and to early Thursday morning.
Excellent, Candace. Thank you. The time now is 6:12. With back-to-back storms impacting Florida, FEMA is now speaking out about its resources.
And coming up, what the emergency agency is saying when it comes to funding and Hurricane Milton.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Orlando Health. Get your Medicare open enrollment questions answered during a special phone bank on October 15th, right here on News 6.
Knowing how the weather will affect where you are or where you're going with pinpoint accuracy down to the minute, that's what News 6 can do for you. I'm meteorologist Jonathan Kegist on News 6.
Welcome back. Hurricane Milton is now a Category 4 storm as it barrels its way across the Gulf of Mexico. It's lost a little strength, not enough, though, to change the major impacts we're going to see. We'll have another update from our Pinpoint weather team in just minutes. Evacuation orders are underway along Florida's Gulf Coast as Milton creeps closer to the state.
And this morning, crews are working around the clock to prepare for the storm's wrath, including the rush to clean up debris left over from Helene. Many front yards and sidewalks on the barrier islands in Sarasota, Manatee, and Pinellas counties are still filled with debris waiting to be picked up. And many are concerned that all that debris that could be picked up, it could become a flying hazard with those winds.
Those people just stopped by and they said, you know, we'll take it away for, of course, for a fee, but then everybody else has got theirs out here, you know. City was going to take it, but they can't now with this storm coming.
And Governor DeSantis has ordered cleanup crews to work 24 hours a day to clean up as much of that debris as possible. State officials admit there likely won't be enough time to get all of it.
Officials at FEMA say they have enough funds to get through Hurricane Milton and continue the recovery efforts from Helene.
Obviously, big disasters like this create longer-term needs and across the federal family. We'll work on those at a later point. But for Helene and for Milton, we have the resources we need. We're executing against that.
The agency has been pushing back against several false claims in recent days, including the rumor that survivors of Helene are only getting $750 from the agency. The director of FEMA says that is just for immediate needs like food, shelter, and more money is still available.
And that makes so much difference when it comes to how long it takes to sort of get things back in order.
Right, and I'm glad they cleared that up because there has been a lot of talk about that $750 and, you know, FEMA's out of money. So it's nice to hear them clear that up because more people are going to need FEMA after this storm.
And believe it or not, sometimes people can't apply because maybe they were just outside of some of these areas that are impacted, but they still were impacted, which we saw with Helene.
Right.
So
let's check back in with Chief Meteorologist Candace Campos. Hi, Candace.
Yeah, with that being said, try to do as much as you can before the storm, right? So if you're concerned about the flooding, finish the sandbags. If you feel like you need to evacuate, evacuate. If you're told to evacuate, remember to evacuate, all right? At the end of the day, this is a serious threat. This could be possibly the strongest hurricane Central Florida has seen, or at least anyone living to this day has seen here in Central Florida. So today is the day to complete those preps. They need to be done by sundown tonight, whether it's outdoor photos and videos, whether it's picking up last-minute debris, patio furniture. If you need to still run to the stores, today is the day to do it. As we head into your Wednesday, we're going to start seeing conditions start to deteriorate. It's not going to be extremely dangerous yet, but by about lunchtime, you need to be where you're going to be throughout the entirety of the storm because we are going to start seeing some of those feeder bands wrapping in. And some of these feeder bands will be packing a punch. Their tornadic activity could be pretty considerable, especially leading up to the center, even approaching Central Florida. Again, remember, a hurricane is not just the eye of a hurricane. It expands hundreds of miles out. So that is certainly a concern for us here in Central Florida come Wednesday afternoon. But the critical core, the strongest of the winds, the damaging winds is really going to be focused overnight Wednesday and into early Thursday morning. And then the threat for storm surge. That also is going to be at play once Milton starts to emerge out into the Atlantic. So again, every risk we have here in Central Florida, it is going to be something we're going to be talking about. So this is the latest satellite loop. You can see those whites and those darker shades are those cold cloud tops. The colder the cloud top, the higher and more stronger that center is. And of course, we're starting to see a little bit of eye wall replacement happening with this storm, which is why it could weaken for a little bit, re-strengthen. And then as it approaches the west coast of Florida, we are looking at factoring in some wind shear, a little bit of dry air, which is going to help bring down intensity just a bit, but still looking at a major hurricane slicing through the I-4 corridor here in Central Florida. So let's talk timing here. Clouds and rain forecast. This is the reason why I want everybody in place where they're going to be sheltering in place throughout the storm by about the lunchtime hour, because look what's going to be moving in by as early as 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Heavy amounts of rain. Again, the potential for tornadoes will be in the forecast. And then it's not until overnight where we see the center of Milton approach south areas of the west coast of Florida. And then again, that's going to be the big concern will be the wind. More on those county by county breaks down what you can expect impact-wise. Meteorologist Michelle Morgan.
Yeah, even though the system will be making landfall along our west coast, our east coast counties will feel some impact. When we're talking about worst case scenario in terms of storm surge, stretching from Flagler County all the way down to Brevard County, Palm Bay, you could potentially see up to 6 feet of storm surge as those easterly winds continues to push up the water as that system pulls through Central Florida. In terms of rainfall here, look at this. Areas highlighted in red, you can see up to 6 inches. That includes Lake County, parts of Orange County, stretching into Volusia and Flagler County. The purples up to 8 inches, locally higher amounts certainly possible. And then you're looking at your orange area, so Kissimmee, parts of Osceola County, Brevard County, up to 4 inches, as well as parts of, I would say, Ocala, Marion County. You can see that orange right there, up to 4 inches. So nonetheless, many of us will pick up significant rainfall on top of strong wind gusts. Reds, we're looking at up to 100 miles per hour. Again, these are gusts. And then you're looking at the orange colors, the yellow colors, up to 75 miles per hour. So damaging winds certainly possible across Central Florida. So here's a look at your hour-by-hour forecast for today.
Sponsored by Strata Air Conditioning and Heating. AC emergency? You ought to call Strata.
Temperature steady in the 70s as we go through the morning. A few isolated showers around. Heading into the afternoon hours, we're at 50% with temperatures climbing into the middle 80s this afternoon with plenty of clouds around. Again, the worst of the weather will be Wednesday afternoon, lasting into Thursday. So here's a look at your 7-day forecast. 85 today, 50% chance for showers, 100% tomorrow as tropical impacts move into central Florida, high of 79, and tropical impacts lasting through Thursday afternoon with a high of 83, but the weekend is looking much better.
All right, Michelle, thank you. Our live team coverage of Hurricane Milton continues as cities across the state brace for the worst.
We got what the city of Orlando is doing to help prevent fires sparked by the flooding of electric vehicles.
This portion of the news is sponsored by the Flooring Center. No matter where you are, stay safe with severe weather updates from News 6. Turn on push notifications in the News 6 app today. Breaking news, traffic. When you need to know what's going on in your neighborhood, trust Sky 6 to get the bigger picture. Exclusively sponsored by attorney Dan Newland.
As Hurricane Milton continues to trek across the Gulf, people in Tampa aren't taking any chances. This is what the lines looked like yesterday at sandbag sites in the city. Some waited for hours. Today could be even busier. Meantime, flood barriers have already gone up around Tampa General Hospital. The facility is surrounded by the water in Hillsborough Bay, which is a flood-prone area. You can see that aqua fencing there, which can withstand surge up to 15 feet above sea level. We saw some dramatic video of that after Helene. Officials in Orlando are taking steps to help people ahead of the storm. The city is opening up parking garages for anyone looking to get their car out of the path of potential flooding. That could be especially important for electric vehicles. Pinellas County put out this video after Helene showing an EV go up in flames in floodwaters, something many owners didn't realize could happen. These garages are all downtown, and anyone who uses them would need to move their vehicles by noon on Friday. And millions of Floridians under evacuation orders right now.
Still to come, how people already hit hard by Helene are now preparing for another major storm.
Get the latest news, weather, and more from the News 6 Plus streaming app. Visit the Roku App Store to download the News 6 Plus app today. Live from clickorlando.com and WKMG, we're getting results.
Hurricane Milton staying on track to hit Florida as a major storm. We've got the overnight update on when the worst will move in. Plus,
the window is closing on us, and we really need to be prepared.
Time running out to get ready for the storm. The evacuations ordered this morning on both of Florida's coast. Glad you're with us at 6:30. Thanks for being with us for this special extended coverage as we prepare for Hurricane Milton. I'm Bridget Ellison.
And I'm Louis Bolden. Chief Meteorologist Candace Campos is here with the latest forecast track. And at this point, Candace, Central Florida is right in the center of the cone.
And of course, we're going to continue to see Milton kind of evolve over the next couple of hours. Within the next 12 to 24, it's going to continue to weaken a bit as it goes through kind of what we're seeing as an eye wall replacement. It's also interacting a little bit there with the northern edge there of the Yucatan Peninsula. But as it starts to kind of exit and kind of pull away from the coast there, we're going to start seeing it kind of intensify again. We can't rule out the chance of it gaining Category 5 strength once again. As of right now, it's sustained at 155. Regardless of whether or not it's a 4 or 5, many of the models are holding on to the potential of seeing that storm weaken just a bit, but still maintaining major Category 3 strength as it approaches the west coast of Florida by very early Tuesday morning. We're talking winds sustained at about 125 miles close to that center. Where that center exactly goes, still a bit uncertain, just between the next couple of miles here, just north and south of Tampa. At the end of the day, a lot of the models, though, are hovering it right over or just south of the Tampa area, then slicing through central Florida as a potential Category 2, then weakening to a Category 1 as it finally exits the East Coast. So here's some Central Florida threats. This is something that we're going to be watching closely. You can see we're going to be all in red. The threats are going to be high on many of these categories. When it comes to winds, sustained 50 to 80 miles per hour. That is strong enough to do damage. Wind gusts could exceed 100. Rainfall rates could get extremely high, especially on the northern side of that core. And on top of all of that, even if this is a Gulf Coast storm, on the East Coast, we're still going to be dealing with the concern of some storm surge. So breaking down some more of those county by county impacts, really trying to localize it for you to get a better idea. Meteorologist Michelle Morgan is standing by.
Thanks so much, Candace. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and start off with Osceola County. First, for everyone, the worst of the weather will be Wednesday evening through Thursday evening, as Candace just mentioned. So for Osceola County, we're looking at winds sustained between 45 to 60 miles per hour. We could potentially see gusts up to 80 miles per hour, and that can certainly cause some damage, some downed trees, so make sure you're aware of that. And then the rainfall up to 6 inches for your area. As we head out to Polk County, we're looking at winds sustained between 50 to 60 miles per hour, potential wind gusts up to 90 miles per hour, and then rainfall between 3 to 6 inches. Also, everybody will be under the threat for isolated tornadoes. Remember, we tell you all the time, when we see tropical systems move in, there's a lot of spinning in the atmosphere. As we head to Seminole County, winds up to 75 miles per hour, gusts up to 100 miles per hour, and rainfall between 3 to 6 inches. And as we head out to Sumter County, we're looking at winds between 60 to 80 plus miles per hour, gusts up to 100. So we'll go over more counties coming up in a bit and also take a look at a few models. Back to you.
All right, Michelle. This morning, millions of Floridians are under mandatory evacuation orders as Hurricane Milton creeps closer to Florida.
If it stays on its current track, this will be the worst storm to hit the Tampa area in more than a century. Many have been heeding the warnings to get out. Here is a live look at I-75 and the Turnpike. We've seen a steady stream of traffic all night long, and you can see it looks like it's picking up a little bit there. It looks like drivers are using the shoulder to get by.
And it's the wind and the storm surge that are causing the biggest concern. Forecasters warn some areas could see a 15-foot surge of seawater in an area already hit so hard just days ago by Hurricane Helene.
The last storm, we went 2.5 feet under in the house. I already lost almost 2 cars, so hoping that, because with all the stuff on the street, it's going to fly around, probably knock a couple of these buildings, and I'm good. I don't want to be a part of that.
And take a look at this. Hundreds of beds set up at Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg. The governor says this 10,000-person base camp will support operations and first responders. People in parts of Central Florida are also being ordered out ahead of the storm.
That's right. Marion and Volusia counties both announcing mandatory evacuation orders for some residents. News 6's Ezzy Castro is live in Volusia County this morning. And Ezzy, when does this take effect?
Well, that evacuation order takes effect tomorrow morning starting at 8 a.m. Lewis. Now, this is for residents living on the east of the Intracoastal Waterway, people living in manufactured and mobile homes, or if you live in a low-lying area prone to flooding. Officials want people staying, also want people staying at campsites and RV parks to evacuate as well, saying that preparations for Hurricane Milton need to be taken seriously.
If you live in low-lying areas or along the St. Johns River, you're at an increased chance to experience flooding from this event. So take your the threat of this very, very seriously. Take the opportunity to protect your property, but above all, we want you to protect your lives.
Multiple emergency shelters will be opening tomorrow morning starting at 9 a.m. One of those shelters will be at Mainland High School here in Daytona Beach, and that is pet friendly. Now back out here live, let's talk about sandbag locations. Officials say that sandbag locations, there's several of them throughout Volusia County. They will be opening starting at 8 a.m. and they will be open until 5 o'clock tonight. However, they say that today would likely be the last day for residents here in Volusia County to get those sandbags, so make sure you keep that in mind. We have all of this information on clickorlando.com. For now, live in Daytona Beach, Ezzy Castro, going to Results News 6.
Ezzy Castro with those mandatory evacuations. Thank you. Meantime, a mandatory evacuation order begins tonight at 6 for people in parts of Marion County. It includes people in mobile homes and RVs, along with any structure people don't feel safe staying in. The county is warning if you do stay, rescue crews won't be able to get to you until after the storm passes.
In just hours, storm shelters are opening up to the public in Lake County.
That's right. All schools in the district are closed, and now with gymnasiums being made to accommodate hundreds of evacuees. News 6's Emily McLeod is live at the Emergency Operations Center. And Emily, it seems like they're hoping a lot of people take advantage of these shelters.
Yeah, certainly, especially people in Astro who have been dealing with flooding for a few days now, even before Milton's arrival. Now, 9 of the shelters that are opening, those are going to be pet-friendly shelters, and 5 of them will be able to accommodate people with special needs. Those shelters will begin opening up at noon today. We were in Astro yesterday where we already saw some flooding on several of those streets, likely because of the rain they saw from Helene and these last few days. Now, in some places, the water was up to my shins, and pretty much every person that we spoke to is already planning for their streets to flood. Some are lucky and their houses have a little bit higher elevation, but Lake County officials are especially warning people who live in Astor, if they're concerned about flooding, they should find somewhere else to stay.
Expecting a lot more rain, and we are expecting the river to rise post-hurricane. So it will be important that our Astor citizens take heed of that. They've all been through these storms. They know how those floodwaters can come up quickly. So make sure that you're prepared if you live in that Astor area. If you need to move out now or take another place to stay, please do so.
In last night's Facebook briefing, that's what you saw there just now. Lake County officials suggested people also get their homes ready if they plan on evacuating to a shelter. Now, here's a full list of the shelters. We'll go ahead and put that up for you right now. These will be opening up later today. Again, 9 of these shelters will be pet friendly and 5 of them will be special needs. Now, what the county means when they say special needs is if you are dependent on electricity, let's say you have a CPAP machine or you have medication that needs to be refrigerated, or if you need assistance with daily living. Now, the county says Lake Express, the county's fixed bus route system, will be offering people free rides to the shelters beginning on Wednesday. But if you want to get one of those free rides, you need to tell the driver that you're heading to a shuttle. We do expect a briefing here at the Emergency Operations Center at 11. We'll be here when that happens. For now, reporting live in Tavares, I'm Emily McLeod, getting results, News 6.
Emily, thank you. You may see some long lines at some gas stations. The governor says fuel is still flowing, though, from the ports.
The state of Florida is amassing significant amount of fuel reserves ahead of Milton, and we're staging it to be utilized as needed. I know people are going to fill up their gas tanks, which is a good thing. There's more lines than maybe that we're used to on some of these, but there has not been an interruption in fuel deliveries, and all the ports are checked in on that.
And for anyone looking to fill up their car or gas can at the last minute, Racetrack does have an online fuel tracker on its website. You can use the drop-down menu to show availability in your city. Results are updated every half hour or so. Especially important, Candace, when we talk about evacuating, because you don't know maybe how far you might have to drive. And then sometimes gas might be out at a few stations and you need that gas to get to the next place.
Or the gas cans for generators. Power outages are going to be guaranteed really with this system. Now, I know we have a long-term Central Floridians, and we have a lot of newbies here in Central Florida. This is going to be a first for pretty much everyone. So we're going to just kind of go through the next couple of hours here when it comes to Hurricane Milton, comparing it to what many Central Floridians compare all hurricanes to, and that's going to be Charley. So let's first talk about what we know so far with Hurricane Milton. It is still packing winds of 155 miles per hour, expected to gain strength back into a Cat 5, weaken a bit, and then entering the west coast of Central Florida as a Cat 3 very, very late Wednesday into early Thursday morning. It's going to continue to slide between 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. from coast to coast. That's about a 12-hour swath here across parts of Central Florida. Category 2 potentially over areas along the I-4 corridor, for instance. So let's compare a little bit of Charley. So Charley was a Category 4, but making landfall much further south in southwest Florida. So by the time it was over Orlando, it was already a Category 1 storm. We had sustained winds of 80, gusts up to about 106, and the rainfall there was about 4 to 6. But it was also a very fast-moving storm, which is why there wasn't as much water dumped over Central Florida. But look at the winds with Milton. We're still looking at impacts 75 to 100 mile per hour gusts. So could get those sustained winds of 80 miles per hour. And then when it comes to those rainfall rates, because it's going to take a little longer to get through this system, we could pick up between 6 and up to 10 inches of rainfall across our northern side of the overall core of Milton. So when we compare one with the other, One looks a little more concerning than Charlie. And so that's why, of course, I'm happy to hear that a lot of Central Floridians are listening to those warnings, taking the threat seriously, because this is going to be moving through late Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, whether you're ready or not. So get those preparations done. They should be completed by sundown tonight. We'll have more details on those county by county impacts coming up in just a few minutes. Back to you guys.
And we know how serious Charlie was. Candace, thank you. Our special coverage continues ahead with the final storm preparations in Orange County.
After seeing the destruction from Hurricane Charlie nearly 20 years ago, News 6's Mark Lehman found out where first responders are going door to door before the storm hits.
This portion of the news is sponsored by Freedom Health Medicare Advantage plans. The News 6 Plus app is available on your Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, and Android TV streaming devices. Download today.
Orlando is close to 100 miles from the Gulf, but as we've learned from previous storms, the wind and rain can pack a serious punch here as well.
That's right. And this morning, emergency officials are getting ready for any scenario. News 6's Mark Lehman is live in East Orange County, where firefighters are taking some proactive steps in some mobile home parks. Mark, what are they doing this morning?
Well, yeah, it's all about getting people ready, keeping them safe throughout this entire storm. We all know how dangerous hurricane-force winds can be, especially for manufactured homes. So Orange County Fire Rescue will be going door to door here at the Fairways Country Club community. It's an outreach effort to provide critical information as the county is working to prepare people choosing to ride out the storm. Now, on top of the preps happening for those who live in mobile homes, there are concerns for several communities across Orange County. Hurricane-force winds are expected along 3 to 6 hurricane-force winds are expected, and along with 3 to 6 inches of rain, and some areas could see up to 12 inches. Now, that has a lot of people worried in the Orlo Vista neighborhood. That's an area that saw widespread flooding from Hurricane Ian in 2022. Since then, crews have been working on a flood mitigation project, which is nearly finished. As the county is keeping an eye on that area, Mayor Jerry Deming says Hurricane Milton will be a big test for public works across Orange County because with strong winds and heavy rain.
There's no question we are going to have power outages, and they will be significant. We will have trees down. We will have some damage because of the sustained winds that we will experience as a community.
In another step to get ahead of potential flooding, Deming says crews will also be lowering lake levels in some areas. The hope is that the efforts will prevent those lakes from overflowing if we see extended periods of rain. Now, out here at Fairways Country Club, firefighters will be going door to door starting at 9 this morning. We will be here alongside with them, asking them about their recommendations. We'll be talking with people who live here as well, and asking them what preps they will be doing in this final day to get ready for Hurricane Milton. For now, reporting live in Orange County, Mark Lehman, getting results, News 6.
All right, thank you, Mark. Hundreds of flights in and out of Florida are being put on hold while the storm passes through.
Orlando International Airport is shutting down tomorrow morning. Officials say starting at 8 a.m., commercial operations will come to a ground stop. They did not say when they plan to reopen, only that it's going to depend on the hurricane's path and impacts. And to Orlando Executive Airport will suspend flights tonight at 10 p.m. Melbourne Orlando International Airport will stop all flights on Wednesday at 2. As of right now, the Sanford Airport and Daytona Beach International Airport are fully operational.
And that's an important timeline because we would love to have you sheltered where you need to be throughout the entirety of the storm by about lunchtime tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because we are expecting the worst of the impacts tomorrow afternoon, lasting into Thursday morning. So it is going to get rough for many of us across Central Florida.
You guys have been giving us great perspective on this storm. And I think people are paying attention to it. It's nice to see that video of all of those people in line to get the sandbags.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people at Publix getting all of their supplies and getting ready. So.
And please be a good neighbor. So if you have trees that are not getting picked up today for some reason, put them in the garage, bundle them, tie them down. I'm about to get kind of neighborly when I get home later on today. I'm just going to say something, yeah. I'm going to knock on the door. I'm going to be nice. But I don't want to see those tree limbs through my window. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's talk about your weather forecast here. This is Hurricane Milton. All kidding aside, you need to get your preparations done, whether it's finishing up, picking up debris, bringing in patio furniture, purchasing the dog food, the baby diapers, whatever you need to do to make sure that you are, 1, prepared, 2, safe, and if you can, as comfortable as possible. Because not only are we going to be dealing with flooding threat, there will be a tornado threat. There will also be that potential for damaging winds. So the combination of all of this, you certainly want to make sure that you're prepared for those power outages. That is going to be likely really all throughout Central Florida. So let's talk about the satellite imagery right now. We're starting to see that center, although it's starting to widen out a little bit. So what happened was we had a pinhole eye by about 8 p.m. last night. That's when it really rapidly intensified, dropping the pressure below 900 millibars. Since then, it can't hold on to that intensity for very long. The eye kind of collapsed. That's what we call eye wall replacement. So the next eye wall we're going to get will be a bit wider, which is why the storm isn't going to intensify as much as it did with that pinhole eye. Regardless of what it does, whether it's a 4 or 5, many of the models are indicating a slight weakening trend before approaching the coastline early Thursday morning. So again, today, our preparations need to be done by sundown. We need to be sheltered in place by tomorrow at about 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So let's look here at the clouds and rain forecast. We're going to start watching a lot of those rain bands, hence why a lot of the airports are going to be closing down. With the worst of the rain already approaching by 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday, a lot of these squall lines will have that potential of spinning up tornadic activity. There will be that potential of those damaging wind gusts already embedded within some of these squall lines. But really when it comes to the wind, that is something we're going to be watching overnight as that center, that critical core of Milton crosses right over the I-4 corridor. The bulk of the rain by that point will be shifted north of the center. So areas further south might be a little dry, but we're still talking about winds gusts exceeding 100 miles per hour. And finally exiting off the coast here by about Thursday afternoon. After that, the concern will be storm surge as well. So we're going to be factoring in all these concerns really when it comes to our county by county impacts. But standing by now, speaking of storm surge, meteorologist Michelle Morgan has more on that.
Yeah, let's talk about the water here, Candace. So we do have a storm surge watch in effect for pretty much our entire county. This is along the East Coast. The West Coast under a warning, but for us here at home, even though we won't see a direct impact, but we are going to see some storm surge up to 6 feet along our coastline. So that's from Flagler County all the way down to Brevard County. You could see highlighted in the yellow. As we head to our western zones here, again, you could see that area that's highlighted in red up to 12 feet. And I do think these numbers will change. National Hurricane Center will adjust because look at this. As we look at the purple area, that's the Tampa Bay area, could potentially see over 12 feet of storm surge as that system moves in. Again, that is the worst case scenario. So here's the forecast again for water levels at the St. Johns River at Astor. Again, potentially we're looking at flood stage as early as Thursday morning, and those numbers could be much higher. On top of the rain, we're looking at a significant flooding threat for areas that live near that river. Now wind gusts, let's go ahead and talk about that as that system continues to push inland. Look at the direction of the winds. We're looking at an easterly wind pushing up all that water along the East Coast, and that's going to continue through Thursday morning. Heading into Thursday afternoon, we'll continue to see those easterly wind shifts as that center now moves over the Atlantic side. We'll see a wind shift, but nonetheless, much of that water will continue to be pushed up on shore, causing some minor beach erosion and also some minor flooding. Expected wind gusts. Areas that highlighted in red, we're looking at up to 100 miles per hour. Again, these are gusts. Can certainly bring down some trees. As Candace was just talking about, make sure you're taking care of that. And then areas highlighted in yellow up to 75 miles per hour, and obviously in purple, which really honing into the Tampa Bay area, stronger than 100 plus. So here's a look at your hour-by-hour forecast for today.
Your forecast is sponsored by Freedom Health Medicare Advantage plans.
We'll see some strong winds as we go through tomorrow, but again, winds will get stronger as we go through, today, stronger winds tomorrow, heading into Thursday. Temperature steady in the lower 80s, middle 80s this afternoon with a 50% chance for scattered rain with a few embedded thunderstorms. So here's a look at your 7-day here, getting you results. 85 today, 50% chance, 75 tonight, 79 tomorrow. Tropical impacts now entering the area and lasting through our Thursday. But look at this, wrapping up the work week, heading into the weekend, we're actually looking at a very nice weekend ahead. Back to you.
Thank you, Michelle. 6:54. Some of the first evacuation orders in Central Florida will be along our East Coast.
At the top of the hour, we're live in Volusia County with a breakdown of the areas affected. Still ahead, another transportation disruption. Updates on Sunrail and Brightline service just ahead.
Discover the magic of color at Crayola Experience, Orlando's most colorful hands-on family attraction.